Hello, everybody. How's it going? Happy Sunday night. Hope you had a amazing Thanksgiving. This is actually our first episode ever from my home studio. No, I'm not inside my mom's basement currently. I'm actually inside my wife's upstairs rec room. So anyway, I want to play the theme song to get us started here. And here we go. Here's the theme song. All right. And so this will actually be the first show that I'm doing without someone next to me. So we're going to try and do this. This is something very new. This is something very different. And that actually brings me to sort of my opening little speech here. I'll try and do like a little editorial each week that we start. Is paralysis by analysis, or the disease of perfection. And I think as orthodontists, that affects obviously quite a few of us. It keeps us from doing a lot of things that we could otherwise do. It could keep you from doing something like this. I'll be honest with you. I've been working on this up to the very last second. I think I got in a couple minutes late simply because I had so much that still needed to be done. My wife and I built a set, so thank you, Anna, for doing that. We had these cool lights and everything. But I think on our practices, it's true that as orthodontists, what got us into orthodontics, a lot of us, is that we were really good at what we did. We were good at school, and we took pride in the fact that we were perfectionists. You hear that all the time. So when you're interviewing for orthodontics, a classic question is, what would you say is your greatest weakness? And someone might say, well, I just care too much, or I'm just a bit of a perfectionist. Like, it's a good thing. And in fact, perfectionism can actually lead to a lot of stress in life. And so I am definitely a perfectionist. I'm definitely OCD. But I think it keeps you from accomplishing a lot of things. And so I guess my challenge to you tonight is, we're kicking this off and we're trying this, and it's live, and it could totally go wrong and things could not work. We'll try and get Dr. Amanda Gallagher on here in a second. It may not work. It may cut out. The internet may go out. Who knows? But we're going to try it. We're going to do it. And so my challenge to you is in your practice, in your life, try and do new things. They may not work. You may fall on your face, but I promise it'll be worth the try and the effort. I think there's three things that keep us from doing what we should do. I'll quickly throw them out. The first is pride. I think that sometimes we feel like we don't want to look bad and we want to look our best, so we don't want to try. Second is fear that we won't do our best in a similar way. The third is just laziness and distraction. I think there's a lot of things that we could otherwise do that we maybe don't get around to doing because we're doing other things that maybe aren't as important. So take that for what it's worth, and so try not to be too much a perfectionist. It's okay to do a great job. And speaking of perfectionists, I'm so excited that our first guest remotely is going to be someone who is also a perfectionist, a lot like myself. And so I've been extremely impressed with Dr. Amanda Gallagher for many years through Facebook. I don't know that we've actually met at great length in person, but I will say that in the week that's led up to this interview, she has ordered herself a tripod. She has been very, very good about being back and forth on getting her questions answered. There's some amazing content tonight that we will not get to, but she's an exceptional person, and I figured out one of the reasons why I think she's so competitive. She played Division I sports, and so we'll talk about that in just a second. But I want to go ahead and start to bring her in here. The process is a little bit clunky, and so I'm going to read her bio as we're sort of bringing her in. Let's test our technology here. Works. But here in a second, you should see her jump in. So let me just start with her bio real quick. You probably Amanda, but hey, it's all good. So Dr. Amanda Gallagher Wetzel, there she is. What's up, Amanda?
Hello. Hi. How's it going?
Hey, it's going great. I don't think my earbuds are working.
Uh-oh. No, wait, I don't hear you. No,
Oh, you don't hear me?
Oh, now you go.
Okay.
Now they picked up.
Yes. All right.
We're
See,
good.
this is live, not television. This is live. There's 30 people watching. 31 people watching. Hey, we
That's
broke our
good.
record from last week.
Hi.
Well, let me quickly and awkwardly read your bio as you're
Okay.
over there outside of Baltimore. And you may be familiar with this bio, but you were born in Reading, Pennsylvania. You attended James Madison University in Virginia,
True story.
where she got degrees in health services administration and business. That's a little different. I'm a biology major, so I'm a nerd. While at James Madison, I did not know this, but you played women's varsity field hockey, and you received Division I academic athlete honors. That's pretty amazing. That kind of speaks, I think, to your competitiveness, perhaps. You got your dental degree at Temple in Philadelphia. You finished the top of your class. You received more awards than I can mention. You did your orthodontic specialty at University of Maryland. All right. And now you've got two practices outside of Baltimore.
Yeah.
I think probably, again, as I was saying, probably most people are familiar with that to some degree. In your spare time, you like to hike, exercise. I don't exercise.
I
That's
used
probably a
to
good thing.
exercise. Now the kids are.
It's funny, the bio that's on our website
I
is
know. I have
often
to update.
not at all. Yeah, it needs to be updated. Mine's like I have like one kid and I enjoy things that I never have time for anymore.
Right.
You do like to cook. I love to cook. I don't know if
Yes.
you still get to cook as much.
Yeah.
You've got a wonderful husband, Ben, who actually works in the practice. I
Yes.
met Ben earlier,
Yes.
and you have 2 sons and a third baby on the way in like
Third
5
one.
weeks. Is that all?
Well,
Is that all
I mean,
correct?
yeah, it is all correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
Due December 31st.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah, New
amazing.
Year's.
So who
We'll
knows?
see. New Year's Eve, baby.
What if you're bringing in New Year's in the hospital? How's that sound?
As long as they have a glass of champagne for me, I'm all good with that.
I think it's okay once the baby has been delivered.
Yes.
I think before that, it might get some heads looking your way. All right, so I want to jump right into some questions, Amanda. Again, thanks for doing this. There's a lot of pressure on you for doing this, but you really rose to the occasion, so I appreciate you. I think there's a reason why you're successful again. So here is the first thing I want to start with. So the day before Thanksgiving lets out is always crazy, I think, for everyone. A lot of kids are out of school. People are just sort of in that holiday mood. So I had a busy day, but for me, a busy day is not a busy day for you. This is from your Instagram. I don't know if people are going to be able to see it. There it is.
Yeah.
Little James Franco gif. 140 appointments. That is amazing.
Was legit. Yeah, and that's the most patients that we've ever seen in one day. Yeah, I was definitely very scared, but there's no way that I could have done it without having my associate there too. I mean, I'm pretty much maxed out at like 100 to 115, 120 is pushing it for me, but yeah, that was the most ever. And then tomorrow I have like 135 scheduled. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what's
Amanda,
happening. It's getting crazy.
You need to get in bed.
I know.
We need to go ahead. Let's go ahead and wrap this up.
I know.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Well, it's early for the West Coasters, so I had to make it, somewhere in the middle.
Right.
So here's your team photo. I don't know how accurate this is. I'm sure you fired at least half of these people since then.
No, they're all still there.
I'm kidding. You must be a good boss. So, but yeah, so I guess kind of along those lines, let's start with tell me about your practice. And so I had a couple people kind of asking this. I think the natural question is, if you're seeing 140 patients and you've been doing this about as long as I've been a practice owner, how did you get there? Where'd you start? All that good stuff.
So I purchased my practice in 2013 from a retired orthodontist. So at that time, he was working 4 days a week, maybe seeing about 40 patients a day. So I kind of came in and kind of started from the ground up. He only stayed with me for about 6 weeks, and then it was kind of like free reign.
Wow.
So so pretty quickly, we've just been able to grow the practice and get it to this point. I mean, it's just been more recently, ever since we've been into our new locations and our new buildings, we've really been able to take it to the next level. And so that's where we're really able to see over 100 patients. But now that I have an amazing associate working with me, it takes a lot of the stress off for sure. So, but it's been a ride.
I would think so. I think for most people, anything over 100 sounds almost unbelievable. So we started from scratch about 5 years ago. And so we're up, a busy day for us is like 80, which for me, after those days, I go home and I just sort of melt into the couch.
Exhausting.
Yeah, 140.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, and
That's
9 months
amazing.
pregnant.
That's amazing. And 9 months pregnant, which we'll get to. And honestly, like, I think that's one of the best storylines here. And I think it's one that a lot of people are probably listening for is, like, it's one thing for me. So, people always tell me, like, how do you do everything that you do? And you're always so busy. And I sort of laugh and say, well, look at what other people are doing. Look at what women are doing that are pregnant 9 months and they're also doing this at the same time. I went to dental school with a girl, and I think Cheryl, and twice during dental school, she had babies. And so I remember
that's
2
crazy.
days before giving birth, her belly was so far out in front of her that she was sort of doing this to do the dental work, and she was back a day or two later. It was like writing boards, and
crazy,
incredible thing. So tell me a little bit about your family. I know you kind of alluded to it some, but just sort of quickly. I guess maybe the most interesting part of your husband is that he didn't used to work with you, and now he does. Kind of tell me a little bit about that.
So right now we have 2 children, so ages 4 and 2, Callan and Bodhi, and my husband and I, we've been married for about 7 years now. And he is an attorney by trade or training, but he was in defense litigation for 11, 12, 13 years. And it was not until we were able to purchase our new building, he came to me and said, well, what if I kind of, come in and start working with you in the practice? And it's not something that we ever really talked about. We get along very well. And then I was just like, you know what, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to give up your law job? to work side by side with me. And honestly, it couldn't have been a better decision for us and for our family, especially because at that time in early 2016, we were just building out this first location. And so he was really able to take a lot of that burden of, building everything out, meeting the contractors, before we even got into that space. He, was helping with all of that kind of stuff. So there's no way that I would have been able to do all of that on my own, especially with building a growing practice. So to have somebody like that has been amazing. So, and
for sure.
yeah, he deals with all the HR now. I mean, he does all the payroll stuff. And so he's really the man behind the scenes. So all the stuff that I used to have to do, with like all the bookkeeping and all the weekends that I would spend into the office, now he's able to do that during the week and just do it so much better that we can just be super decisive on any decisions that we need to make and just go with it. So I think that's really helped us, propel us in our practice.
For sure. Yeah. I think any relationship you can have that's good with a lawyer is always good.
Yeah.
So
In-house counsel for sure.
My business partner, Alex Rasmussen at Neon Campus, his mom is a lawyer and has several associates, and that has come in handy many times. And so it's always great to have someone at arm's length that is a lawyer. My wife works with me and always has. And so we started the practice together. And I think that's been a huge part of it. I talked about this with Cole last week about how it seems like most really successful people have someone that's there, whoever it is, their mom, their husband, their boyfriend, their close friend, that's sort of their rock. And I think for you, it seems like Ben is that person. So,
absolutely.
Which is huge. So, all right. So I want to get into a little bit of these questions on kind of being a mom, and certainly it's not meant to insinuate in any way that that's the only thing that's interesting about you or whatever. It's just, it is in some degree the unique thing. And I think there's a lot of focus, and I want to get to these questions later, of orthodontics as an industry being focused mostly on men. And I think traditionally there's probably a reason for that. It's sort of like a lot of industries that it's that way. But increasingly so, orthodontics is 50-50 effectively with women and men. And I think it changes the landscape. I think that maybe on average, you could say that a woman wants something different or has to consider motherhood and things like that. And so I want to answer some of those questions. For me as a busy person, though, just right off the bat, whether you're a mother or not, like the same questions I get, like, how do you do everything? How do you do everything? And so you're busier than I am. What's your daily routine? Like, what is it that you wake up and you do every day?
So,
if you don't mind.
I mean, on a daily basis, I mean, I would imagine most working moms, whether it's, an orthodontist or in general, I mean, you're trying to get ready for the day and get your kids ready for the day. So I'm up at 5:15, 5:30 in the morning, where once I used to be able to work out at that time. Now it's about packing like Nutella sandwiches. So I'm getting all that stuff together, for our nanny to come over. And then what's important for me is in order to prepare for the day then too, is to be able to fully look at the schedule. I spend at least 30 to 40 minutes every morning looking at the schedule, even before I get to work, just so then I know how to prepare for the day. And I think that really helps me, with work and getting through the day and preparing my team for what to expect. Get to the office around 7:30. Huddle 7:45, patients 8 o'clock, just work straight through. We have a lunch, but I'm always working through lunch. I really never take any lunch. It's like, does that exist? No. And then usually leave the office around 6 o'clock at night, 6:30, get home, 6:30, 7 o'clock. Kids, food, bed, baths, all that kind of stuff. Fall asleep in their bed, wake up at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then it's like, okay, now I have like 2 seconds. So so there's no time to work out anymore, but one day.
One day
I'll be back.
You might be able to squeeze in a workout there between 7:30 and 7:45 a.m. Have you always been this way? I mean, is it always, I think if I'm a resident and I'm listening to this, I remember as a dental student feeling like, oh, this is the worst that life is ever going to be. And then, and actually, I think ortho took a little dip. I think ortho was easier than dental. You may agree or disagree. We do a Bible study for medical students, and I know they work hard, but when I hear that schedule, I'm like, I don't think it get much worse than that. So, like, has it always been this way for you? Is it just sort of ramped up in the last year or two, or what?
I mean, ever since having kids, I mean, before I used to wake up at, between 6:15 and 6:30, but like with just trying to, and especially with the growth of the practice, I just feel like I can't just walk in not knowing what I'm coming into. Even if I would rely on my staff having a huddle, like I I don't have a full grasp on what I need to get done that day. So that way I can prepare for same day starts, and I know straight ahead, like we got to prepare to do finances on XYZ person, even though they're only scheduled for like a 15-20 minute visit. And that way it's, you know, for me, that way I'm saving time for other moms, because I know that this situation is not unique to me, you know?
Yeah,
So, but yeah,
sure.
we get
That's
through.
Great. Well, it's incredible. So I guess Lindsay Karish kind of asked the same sort of question. It was one that was on my list, but how do you balance the time between practice and home? I feel that stress, but I think realistically, my wife who works in the practice, she feels that stress and she feels that burden more than I think I ever will. I don't know if that's a biological thing or if that's just, I don't know. We won't get into the psychology of that, but how do you do that? How do you balance those two?
You know, it's definitely a challenge, but I think it's a challenge for any working mom in any profession. Like you said, I think there's that biological thing. I mean, we always, you know, as women, just feel like we take on more responsibility with the kids. I don't know. But even with any business owner, I mean, it is a challenge, you know, to overcome. But, you know, it's how it's the different things that you can implement to help you get to try to get a little bit closer to the balance that you want. You know, for me, just recently, it's been bringing on an associate that work life. I mean, I want to be part of my kids' lives. I want to be there for their school. And now my kids are finally in school and they have a Halloween party, and we get like a last minute week, you know, a week ahead of time notification. Oh, can you be here? I can finally say yes. And I finally feel like I can say yes by having somebody with me. And I think for any female practicing orthodontist, I mean, if you can get your practice to a place, or even if you're not 100% comfortable doing it, if you can bring somebody in to help you, I think that's huge, because you can take that step away and be able to do those things to have a better work-life balance. And then just, you know, having people at home, you know, we have a nanny that comes over during the day. She doesn't live with us. I don't know if I could handle somebody living with me, but I like to have my own personal space. But, you know, just having reliable people in your life to help you, that helps with that work-life balance. And so I feel like you have to take those extra steps. Like you can't just expect that it's gonna like be okay. Like it's just, you have to do extra, you know, to get there. So that's what works for me. So, but yeah.
Well, I think for a lot of us who are workaholics, like as I'm a total workaholic, I'm happiest when I'm sort of moving from one thing to the next.
Right.
And I know there's a point where you can kind of run out of that energy, but where I'm at, like, I'm trying to think of my last few days here, but I taught class this morning. I did like a podcast recording on Friday.
Yeah.
And this is all like on vacation.
It's
so I've just been going from
time.
one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when you have unstructured time, like I'm a total workaholic too. And I have to have that, I have to have that structure. I need to constantly be doing stuff. So even when I take days off, it's like, I'm still in at the office doing stuff, planning on the next thing. So I don't know. A lot of it is personality too, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then I think this kind of goes into the next question, because I guess as we're sitting here talking about this, I think some people got into orthodontics like wanting this and being prepped for that.
Yeah.
And some people, I think they get there and they're like, I don't want this. I can't do it. So they need to sell, or they need to do something else, or they need to structure their practice in such a way that it is smaller. I think that's a question that everyone, and I think I'm kind of speaking to residents in this way, is that you need to kind of know yourself. And I think until you're going that busy, you really don't know, but maybe you have some idea. But if you want like a 40 patient a day practice, go for that. But what would you say to female orthodontists? So those that are out there, maybe like, let's say residents who are considering having a kid or kids and also owning a practice, what's your sort of answer to that?
Well, you know, I think what you were saying too is just kind of having an idea, a vision of what you want your practice to be like. I think that's huge, because, you know, it's like, I'm a hard worker and I work to get to this point where now we're seeing over 100 patients a day, and you can't really go back from that. So, and I didn't realize that until you get there and you're like, oh crap. Okay. So this is the new normal. So it's about, just knowing what you want out of your career. You know, that I think that's important, just to know where you want to go with practice. And then the other thing is too, you know, as far as recommendations for, you know, any females who want to own a practice, I mean, the sooner you can own, the better. I mean, the sooner you can get into doing it. And it's just like the same thing, male or female. I mean, obviously for, you know, long-term wealth, all that kind of stuff. But from a female perspective, if you're considering having kids, if you can get in early, you buy a practice, start a practice, you grind like crazy, you put all that time in on the front end, And then you get to a point where you can then hire an associate or bring somebody in when you're ready to have kids or once your kids are school aged. And so, for me, I feel fortunate that, I was able to buy my practice at 31 years old. I've been practicing now for 5 years, but it's like I put that in the front end. And so for residents, grind on the front end, try to buy early and then do it. I find so many females, I think, are not buying until, mid, late 40s, early 50s. And then it's like, you've missed all that. I guess it's opportunity cost, or you miss that window of opportunity, all those years. So if you can get in early and grind and put all that time in, and then you can kind of back away a little bit, but not ever fully away. That was
I think that was actually, I think, my favorite question and answer on this sheet was that. I think that's super brilliant. And I don't know that it's what everyone's hearing. I think most people have the perspective of, I got to get out, I got to pay down my debt. So I'm going to take, I'll take the $250,000, $300,000 a year guaranteed and I'll work on that. But from a financial standpoint, and I'm not a numbers guy, but like, you're gonna eclipse that if you bust it, if you hustle for the first few years, like it'll be able to take care of it down the road. Like, so I always tell people, go ahead.
You just never know. I mean, until you are in that position, you have no idea what you're missing by owning. So I don't know. I always make that recommendation.
I always tell people, get to equity as soon as you can.
For sure.
And another like phrase that's really gooby, but make hay while the sun shines. And I think as someone that's going to have a busy family, I've had people who have teenagers tell me this, like, you think life is busy now, just wait until they're playing 6 sports and stuff like that. So I'm just hopeful by that point that there's an Uber that can take them every game, and I don't have to go watch any games, because I really don't want to watch junior high sports. So
I'll watch games,
well, can I watch it online? Can we just live stream this thing? Because I don't really want to be there around the other parents. It sounds terrible. Okay, so I have a game. We're doing one game tonight. I think the games were actually the best part. So you're a much better interview than Cole was.
Okay,
Cole
thank you.
Not a very good. So we had to have games to save that. But I have a game. You told me that you were really into fashion. That was one of your interests.
I do. Except for I've been pregnant for so long, I can never. I can't
you can pull that off. Yeah, the moo is always in fashion.
Right.
I'm just kidding. My wife, she looks like she has a watermelon inside of her shirt at all times. So. Thank you. So this is going to be called Who Wore It Better? And here's our theme song. Can we hear that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Right Said Fred. I don't know if that's coming through. Where do I need to put this thing? Right there? I don't know. All right. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you. Let's see. What's funny is I actually bought the single of Right Said Fred, I'm Too Sexy, back in the day. And if you know what singles are, I don't know what my mom was thinking. Well, let me do that.
Don't know.
All right. So I'm going to show you, these are going to be orthodontists, and I'm going to show you 2 photos.
Okay.
And you're going to give me a little bit of fashion analysis, because I'm not very fashionable. This is about as fashionable as I get, is wearing a suit.
All right.
But I'm not wearing shoes, because why bother right now, right? So
I don't have shoes
but I'll show you one. Oh, well, why would you? So I did put pants on. I thought that was going to be potentially inappropriate. So the first one here, this is Anil Adicula.
Yes.
All right. So right there in the middle. Tell me a little bit about what Anil's wearing there. I don't know, the designer, but go ahead and break this down for us.
I don't know the designer either. It's a tuxedo.
I'm playing around.
He looks very handsome. I love the glasses. Super dapper.
Yeah.
The guy too, well, on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
I love that coat. That's
amazing.
It's like iridescent. That's my color, purple. I love purple.
Yeah, it actually kind of reminds me of your wallpaper, but in a different color, like your practice wallpaper. But I love it. Sorry, Anil. The other guy looks better. But all right, so here is. So who wore it better? This was Anil from some tuxedo event or something versus this version of Anil. What are you thinking?
What is going on? Is that him?
Yeah. This is Anil. This is Anil for sure. Confirmed
Where is he?
from his Facebook.
In Honduras or something.
Yeah, he looks like he's probably on a mission trip or something.
I don't know. Excited about getting ice cream. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he looks very excited. His chest hair is tufting out a little bit. I don't know what he's doing with his hands, but I'm just going to go ahead and pull that one down. So
yeah, okay.
All right, so I think we're going to go with Anil number 1. Okay,
Anil
so
number
another
1
guy,
for sure.
So again, I'm not a fashionable guy, but when people wear nice clothes, like I notice it. I mean, like anyone would. And one guy that I notice a lot is Chris Setta. I don't know if you know Chris, but look at that.
Oh my gosh.
Always wearing a good suit. So what do you think about that?
Well, I'm like, I mean, obviously his suit is nice, but gosh, his wife, stunning. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Ugh,
yeah, totally agree.
someday I would die to get into a dress like that. That's never gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm gonna.
Once you have
It's
3
not in the
kids,
cards for me
forget
either.
it.
All right, so here is another one of Chris. This is Chris as a
Oh,
child.
but that's so
Pretty
cute.
cute.
I love it. I love
I know.
I love
I
the
know.
boots. The boots are
The boots are what kind of, yeah, it's seal the deal for sure. All right, so let's kind of move along. This is Donna Galante.
oh, very
I'm
nice.
digging this.
Beautiful. I
Yeah.
love the light pink. It's very soft, very feminine. That
Yeah.
they call that a pussy bow, but I don't know. It looks nice. It looks really good. That's what they call it.
Might want to rename that.
I know. I don't know why they call it that.
Okay, so we'll be editing this out before it hits the podcast website. So in keeping with the bow, I was just calling it a bow, so that shows what I know. Here's a
I don't
photo
know why
of Donna.
they call it that.
I don't either. So
Oh
Donna
my gosh,
is the one.
is she the one with the bow there too?
She's the one with the bow. So I think the bow is
the bow
part of her
is
thing.
yes, but that's a
Yeah.
bow. That is just that
That's
looks
just
great.
that's just a bow. So which one do you prefer? Do you prefer
I
today's
like
Donna?
I mean, you know, she's super cute in both, but I prefer
Yeah.
today's Donna. She looks very
Hey,
sleek.
I'm going with yesterday's Donna. All right, so another one that's always dressing up really well.
Oh
Our
yes,
friend Dobie
Mr.
Pereiro.
Dapper.
Yeah,
Yes.
Dobie's at the Dodgers game right now.
Oh
But
really?
yeah. So Dobie always pulls off. I feel like he tries to pull off different print ties with kind of different suits, and
He does like
connects them
I
together.
think he likes the red ties. Does he like red ties? I think he wears a lot of red ties.
Yeah, red ties.
Yeah.
Argyles. I'm a little bit more of a fan of. Let me flip this around where you'll be able to see it better.
Oh.
This Dobie though.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. He looks just like his son. They're like
He
twins.
does look
They're like
just like
spitting.
David.
Yeah, David and oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Spitting images. Super cute.
Yeah. Good stuff.
I don't know.
Super
I don't
cute
know
stuff.
about those little suspenders. So cute.
The suspenders. I don't know that we can really pick a winner. All right. So speaking of Dobie, so here is you. This is the photo
Yes.
you submitted.
See red.
So
yes.
you will know more about red tie. Exactly. It's a power tie.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about what you're wearing.
Oh, I was 8 weeks pregnant there in that picture. That was at the AAO, and that's one of my favorite designers, Diane von Furstenberg. So I love her wrap dresses; are my favorite. And Dobie's he's got his like Ferragamo belt on. I think he has like Cole Haan shoes. You know, so he's working it too.
Yeah, no clue who any of those people are, but that sounds good. I need like a stylist or something. But in keeping with the pink theme, it's clear that you've always liked pink. And you told me that this is who you wanted to be as a child.
My idol, 100%, Miss Piggy.
Miss Piggy. To clarify, she's not Spider-Man. Her idol is Miss Piggy. So
thanks.
You pulled it off.
Well,
I think I like the gloves. All right. So as
It
I
was
was saying,
nice
I don't
touch.
have any for myself.
Oh.
Like, this is again about as fashionable as I get.
Well, you look
I
very
do
nice.
have some oldies that I want to show.
Yeah.
And so this is me from back in the day.
Oh my gosh. See,
This is me
suspenders,
wearing
so
some
cute.
Oshkosh Bagosh. Yep, that was a big deal back then. Some little overalls.
Yeah.
And it looks like we had the
Overalls.
same stylist because this is you from about the same age.
Oh yes. Oh my gosh, we were wearing.
Yeah,
It's the
wearing
same
Oshkosh
thing.
Bagosh and the Santa hat, very very festive.
That's great
Very
for the
on point.
holidays.
And then here are my two favorite photos, and then we'll wrap up our fashion segment. This is my best. This is a Junior from Problem Child version of Kyle Fagala. So dressed for Easter with the knee-high socks.
I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah. Not bad. Probably that was at Sears or JCPenney or something.
Of course.
But this is my favorite, and you submitted this, so thank you for adding this comedy to this. This is you, and I want to get that in close.
I know you can't really see it. It says.
I don't know if you can read the name of that book, but it says "Never Talk to Strangers."
I was so confused. I pulled that out. I'm like, who puts that on a preschool picture?
Yeah, I don't know. Was that the
I don't know.
photographer's idea?
I don't know. It was awful though. Yeah.
So I think that could almost make awkward family photos.
I think so too.
It's almost there. So
I know.
All right. So that was Who Wore It Better.
Yes, that was amazing.
Fun stuff. Yeah, fun stuff. So we'll do that again. If you have any awkward photos of yourself, submit them. I always need game ideas. So all right. So let's pause that. So let's jump back into a couple questions, and we're doing okay on time. We're at 30 minutes.
Cool.
Probably about 15, 20 minutes left. So let's see. What's a good question here? I guess this is always a good one for residents, and I got forms of this question from different people, but what are like 3 things you wish you had known sooner about owning a practice? What are the things you wish you had known sooner?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where you know that it's going to be a big time commitment to own a practice, I mean, anybody that's going into it knows it's going to be a lot of time. But just, you know how it is. It's just how much time and energy and effort that it takes. I mean, it's one of those things that nobody can really prepare you for until you're in. And then it's just like, oh my gosh, like this is a lot of time. The other thing, you know, that, you know, I wish I kind of knew about was with like employees, just knowing the amount of like HR stuff. I guess I never really realized. I mean, people always said, oh, the employees are always the most difficult part of practice. I guess I just didn't, again, realize, you know, all the stuff that you would deal, all the extraneous stuff that you would deal with employees, you know, calling off and being sick and all of the employee drama and having to deal with it. So just the amount of time with that. And then, you know, another thing I would say too is like the amount of time to just figure out schedule and figure out future growth. And I am surprised how much time I actually spend trying to work out schedules for the future. And, you know, this template that I have right now is a little bit crazy. And so, but it's something that I kind of implemented, you know, 8-10 weeks ago. And so it's constantly trying to fine tune to assist with growth. You know, so I guess I just didn't realize how much time I would be spending on that. But I guess those would be the biggest time things for me.
Yeah, I think time, you said HR, schedule.
Yeah, schedule,
for me,
all that kind of
it's
stuff.
it's the HR. Like if there's one thing that I could like completely take out, it'd be that. But it's constant.
Yeah.
And I'm somebody that if someone's upset with me or there's not peace in my life in some way, it kills me. So it eats at me. So over the weekend, like I'll worry about it. And I think it was maybe Neil Kravitz that always says like, your job is to make my life easier. And if I'm thinking about you, then it's time for you to go. That's kind of his like classic go-to. And
I go to that a lot.
He's right.
I know. I go to that all the time. I think about that. If I'm talking about you or thinking about you when I'm not at work, then we need to do something about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah,
so I've actually used that line recently. So thank you, Dr. Kravitz, who was here earlier. Tell me maybe a story about one of your proudest moments in practice. I like to kind of get to the emotional side of kind of, you know, obviously you work your butt off and I'm sure there's some good and some bad, but what are some of the good times?
You know, I think that, you know, for our practice, I feel like one of my proudest moments was, you know, within the first 2 years of owning the practice and going from, you know, just purchasing the practice and just growing it to the point where, I mean, I had patients waiting outside of my door and I realized I was like, okay, I'm out of space and I couldn't fit enough people in my waiting room. So we were able to buy a building. We purchased a building within 2 years of owning our practice. And that just is honestly catapulted us to the next level. So within the 3 years, I built out my one location. And 1 year later after that, we built out our second location. So, and it was one of these things where when we had made that move to the other building and to buy the building and build it out, I still had 5 years left on my lease. And so I think some people, you know, I hear people talk sometimes and like, okay, well, I have this lease, but when my lease runs out, again, it's like missed window of opportunity for growth. If I would have stayed just to finish out my lease, I would have missed out on the amount of growth that I have now. So, I mean, that's proud for me. I mean, the proud moment for me was buying that building.
Sure. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. And then aside from that, you know, just like the little moments and stuff in practices, you know, when patients, you know, they come in and the moms are saying to us like, oh, you know, it feels like Disneyland in here, you know, everybody's so happy and my kids want to come and they've been counting down the days until they can come in to see you. And so that makes me very happy too, because it just means that vision that I have for the type of practice that I want to have, it's, you know, it's happening and people feel that too. So those are proud moments for me.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Practice space. I will say that when I started, it's funny. I remember looking at old schematics, like if you go back and like see it spaces you were looking at, and obviously like money is totally different as you're a resident as compared to now. And the understanding of, like you said, the opportunity cost is completely different. You're just trying to get out and kind of get it done. And you talk to the contractor and it's like, it's going to cost what per square foot, you know? So those are the numbers that are like most focused in your head instead of like, well, how much business are you losing by not having the space you need? And I had, we looked at a little shotgun retail 1,400 square foot space. And I look at that now and I'm like, what are we thinking? And our spaces are already small. I mean, we ended up with about 2,000 square foot spots and we've got two of those, and we're trying to expand one, and we've expanded it a little bit. But like, I remember doctors saying, you're going to need more space. And I'm thinking, I'm starting from scratch. Like, I'll have 0 patients day one. I do not need more space. But now if I can go back and get 3,500, 4,000 square feet, that would have been such a smarter thing. So
I agree.
If you're out there planning a practice, stretch it. Go bigger than you think you'd ever need. And you'll probably grow into it very quickly. So, and now we're looking at this problem of we've dumped all this money into a space that we don't own. And now we're either looking to expand it or find somewhere new, which is a huge problem. So you think buy? Okay. Well, tell me why you think buy.
Okay. I mean, just so the way that I think that the future of orthodontics and the way that things are going, for me, everything is about visibility and just being a visible force out there. And so, and they say about like exposures, like it takes somebody about 5 exposures until they make a decision about something. So you need, I say it's all about visibility, getting a place that you can be exposed onto main roads, that you can have amazing signage. For my second location that we recently built out, I went a little too small, I think. I mean, it was either 2,400 square feet or 4,000. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be like a satellite office. And I'm like already 1 year in busting. So the problem is, I mean, my lease on that is more than what my mortgage is on my commercial building. And so for long-term equity and investment, I mean, if you can buy and you have the opportunity to buy, I mean, go for it. I mean, that's like, if I could have bought for my second location, I would, but there just wasn't anything really good available. So that way, then you don't feel so bad investing all the money into the office, like, because you own it, right?
Sure, because you own it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So that's one of those classic questions. I should probably ask everyone that question because I hear so many different answers on it. I do think that realistically, as you get to a certain size, like if you're going to have the classic kind of Taj Mahal-esque practice, you're going to have to buy it anyway. It's going to be hard to lease that sort of thing out. But I think in maybe the 1,500 to 3,500 square feet, you could probably lease it. But once you get beyond that, I think you're going to probably have to buy it. So that may be upon us someday. I'd love to just continue to stay profitable and not have to worry about a building at this point, but we'll see how that goes. I think the next few years for me are going to be very, very telling.
The other thing is too, you know, like when you do that, I mean, all the tax benefits and everything of owning a building as well. And then you pay yourself rent, and then it's like, that's just extra. So there's a lot of good things about it too. Think about it.
Well, you have convinced me. I will be thinking about it. One of the big points of doing this is to try and learn something, obviously. So I will put that on my radar for sure. So let me ask you quickly, something, I liked your answer to this because it's short and sweet and I agree with it. Something you want to see change about orthodontics in the next 5 to 10 years.
Oh, yeah. Just people not worrying so much about all these, you know, box on the shelf aligner companies, you know, direct to consumers. You know, I feel like there's so much wasted energy right now in orthodontics. I mean, if we just focused on doing what we need to do the best, I mean, it can just propel us in our specialty to where we need to go, providing that service for people. I mean, people are never going to get that feeling that they get like when they come into our offices. So I would love to see people not focus so much on these direct to consumer companies because, you know, I was thinking about it too. It's like, you know, what happened with like dermatologists when Proactive came out? I mean, yeah, there's always that population who's going to want that cheap, you know, who can't afford it. I mean, I did that when I was in college. I couldn't afford a dermatologist. It's the same type of thing. So I would love for us to not stress about that and just focus on being the best that we can and providing a service, and then just taking ourselves to that next level, providing even better service. Yes.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing, I don't mean this as a slide against anybody that's really focused on those things, but I do agree with you. And when I'm around people that have 140 patient a day practices, they're not worried about that. They're focused on their own thing. And I think it's almost like a great sports team that is not worried about distractions, that they're purely focused on their game, on their script and what they're working on and their practice. And I think the same needs to be true of you if you want to be very successful, is to not worry about the noise that's outside of you. For me, the big thing is, if you can't change something, why focus on it? And I don't think there's a whole lot we can do to really change it or affect it.
It's going to be there.
Maybe someone else has a better idea. It's going to be there. And I think that's played out. I think it might eat into certain aspects of our practice, but if you have a Disneyland orthodontic practice and you're that sort of person, people are going to choose you no matter what. People who don't have any money and who mortgage their home, they go to Disneyland. Okay.
Right.
And if they can do that in their backyard, I mean, a direct-to-consumer box store is not ever going to be Disneyland. And we've seen that. The reviews for those things are not great. So no, I like that. I like that. Okay. So I have a segment. I'm just going to do it. My gut's telling me not to do it, but I'm going to do it.
Okay.
And I did not get the theme song together.
Okay.
This is going to be a new segment called Why. This is a commentary that has nothing to do with orthodontics.
Okay.
It might sometimes have something to do with orthodontics, but tonight it does not.
Okay.
Tonight it has to do with Italian salad dressing. So go with me.
Okay. Right.
All right. So we were at Zaxby's today, and I don't order salad when I go to Zaxby's. Okay. Why would I? I'm a red-blooded white American male, so I get chicken strips and chicken wings as well. You should. But my wife ordered a salad. They call it a salad at Zaxby's. Are you familiar with Zaxby's?
I don't know Zaxby's. We don't have Zaxby's up here, so
it's sort of a southern thing. It's a big deal in the South. If anyone knows what Zaxby's is, go ahead and please comment below about it. But it's a big deal in the South. Anyway, and so my wife asked for Italian dressing, and they didn't have that.
Oh gosh.
And they said, well, we have vinaigrette.
Yeah.
And so this is a common thing I feel like with restaurants, and I don't understand it, is that I've been to many restaurants, one of those being Red Lobster. As a kid, that was like fancy dining for me, so life has changed. But they don't have Italian either, so they have some sort of a vinaigrette. I can't think of what they call it, like or a balsamic or something, as if that's a replacement. It's like if you ask for a Coke, and they're like, well, we have Fanta or something. I don't know. It's not the same thing at all. But what's going on with that? Why do restaurants? I looked it up. Italian is the second most common salad dressing. It's the second most favorite. Number one is ranch, of course. But every menu will have ranch. What's your favorite salad dressing, by the way?
Balsamic.
Is it balsamic? Okay. And I was going to say that most menus, they'll have ranch for sure. You always have ranch, and you'll have a light ranch too, or whatever. You'll often have a honey mustard, which to me is a disgusting salad dressing. It's way too sweet. I don't know. Yeah. And it's actually like the 7th most popular salad dressing for Americans. I'm glad that I know that.
Yeah.
They'll oftentimes have a balsamic or a blue cheese, but the Italian is the one they leave off a lot. What's up with that?
What is up with that?
I don't know what's up with that. So I don't know if it's that it's recently come out that Italy as a country did something bad and it's passed, and they're trying to distance themselves.
Do they offer
from a PR
French?
perspective. I don't know. So French is like the worst dressing.
Well,
the Catalina, that's terrible. Well, I don't know if France did the same number of things.
I don't know.
So anyway, so my question for restaurants that don't offer Italian is why? Why not? What's going on?
Yeah,
so
what's going on?
I would like for them to answer the next time we do have Italian. And if it's just vinaigrette and it's not actually Italian, just rename it. And I don't want creamy Italian. I want the real deal Italian. So, all right. So that was a segment called Why.
That's a good one.
That will never return. That will never come back. All right. So let's see. Let's jump into this. I want to talk about office design. When I think of you, like I think my first awareness of you was how beautiful your office was, for what that's worth. I don't know that there's one that looks as good. I know like Neil Kravitz has a gorgeous office. But I want to show a couple photos of your office. So there is one. There's the entrance. I don't know if that's still your office. That's off your website.
Yeah.
This is a gorgeous little consult room. I love the green chairs.
Oh, thank you.
It almost looks more like an Airbnb than an orthodontic office. It's amazing. So there's some of that. Walk me through that process. You got actually you did this amazing like top 5, but I guess real quickly, I know you'd like met with one architect. It didn't seem like it was going well, so you sort of switched that up. And walk me through that real quickly, and then I'm going to ask for your design tips because I think they're good.
Okay, thanks. So, we started with, we didn't know really what we were doing when we purchased the building. We knew we were going to build it out, and we wanted to make it an ortho space. It was a bank building, so we had a little bit to work around. I had zero idea, like concept of budget. I had no idea what we were getting into. So I was working with just an architect, and I just was not getting the answers that I wanted. And her vision was rocking chairs in my waiting room and a Zen wall for the parents. And I was like, I've given you all this stuff. This is not going to work out. So fortunately, I had, there's a local hygienist. Her husband started working for this company, Arm & Co. Inc., based out of Sterling, Virginia. And I got hooked up with them at the 11th hour. Lost some money on the first architect, but it doesn't even matter. And we got hooked up with, so Arm & Co. is a design build firm. And the moment we went down to their showroom and met with them in Sterling, they were able to take our space, our 3,600 square foot space, and they gave us an idea of what it would cost to build it out. Obviously, there were some tweaks to that budget, but pretty much everything was spot on, and they bent over backwards to help us get out of our situation because they knew we were on a time limit, to get built out. So they have a great design team. The one girl there, Allison Rasmus, she's the designer that I worked with. But I'm very active in that process, and I mean, I knew exactly what I wanted it to be. And we just kind of jived together to create the spaces. So we started with Perry Hall. That's the purple office. So that was the first one. And then the more recent one was the green one that we just saw there. And so it's fun. I love it. It's totally fun for me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like that expensive.
Yeah. It looks more like a boutique or like,
yeah, it's
I
like
think
a
that's
salon.
the beauty of it is that, yeah.
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 And that's why patients say when they come in, it's like they feel like it's like a high-end salon, not an orthodontic office.
I think that when I was a resident, there was an expectation. So you go visit a few offices, and that's sort of your image of what it should be.
Yeah.
Better to go visit like a few high-end hair salons or
that's what my inspiration is. Yeah, because I mean so for me it's like I just think about what I like the feel that I like when I go to a place, what do I want it to feel like you're getting a high-end service. And so that's how and why I designed the way that I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the dentist that I grew up going to in Jonesboro, Arkansas, he had deer heads on the wall. So that was aesthetic. A really strong hunter green and a little bit of wallpaper, like just right around the top that was camouflaged. So that was sort of, to have the practice that we have, it's a miracle, honestly. So you had 5 really great tips. And if you want to kind of share those,
I can't remember.
I can tell you what they were. No, it's okay. I'll feed them. I'll feed them to you. So the first is make a Pinterest board.
Pinterest.
Yeah,
for sure. And I know guys guys are designing offices and stuff too. Go on Pinterest, create a Pinterest board, follow my Pinterest boards. But just, there's so many ideas, whether you're looking at salons, Starbucks. I mean, there's so many, all over the world, hotels. I look at hotel lobbies and all that kind of stuff to help design. So Pinterest is huge to help get ideas organized and then to share with a designer.
So you've already covered this one, but work with the design build team if possible.
Design build.
What I would add to what I would add to that, and I worked with an architect as well. It doesn't have to be the one that costs you $70,000-$80,000.
Right.
But also don't scrimp on that. It's such a big deal. So we worked with a designer, and I mean, even if you're really good at this, it'd be nice to have someone to bounce ideas off of.
Right.
I think. So
absolutely. Yeah. So
number 3, I totally agree with this. Is one thing that can go wrong with a project is when you pick the contractor, who you pick, but also not staying on top of them. So you say every week walk around it is what you said? Yeah.
So, I mean, when you're building, I mean, they don't want you there all the time because they're trying to do their thing, but it's like, you have to, it's just like your staff, you have to stay on top of them and just, you have to stay on top and go into the space and see what's going on. And you can make changes easily while it's happening. Do you need extra receptacles here? Do you need another internet drop here? So much easier to do it while it's in process versus after the fact. So it saves you a lot of money too. Yeah.
Huge tip. Fourth one was plan for the future. I think we've already sort of covered this with the size, but anything more on that?
No, I mean, even if you can't afford to build out your full space, I mean, the first architect that we were working with, we knew that we couldn't afford the full budget to build everything out, but she was literally just going to cut the space off and it'd be unfinished back area. And so, and this week we're actually starting to build out our private treatment room. So I couldn't, and my husband and I, we were talking about it. It's I couldn't even imagine if we didn't already have the plumbing there. You couldn't make that game time, quick decision to quickly build out and grow. So plan, even though you can't afford to finish it, just have it at least plumbed and have a plan for what it's going to look like in the future so that you can easily move into it and just have contractors come in and just finish it.
Yeah, that's great. And then the last one I think we really have covered is give yourself more space than you think you'll need.
Yes,
and I don't know what that number is. If you were saying someone was going to go start their practice, what is the sort of range that you would think is good?
I feel like 3,000, 3,500. I feel like that's a really good number. And even though, again, you might not be able to be in it all right away, but just have the ability. But I think my Perry Hall office is 3,600 square feet, and that's good, but we're going to be growing out of that. So it's okay, well, how are we going to plan for even more? than that. But I'd say like probably around like 32 to 3,600 square feet, I think would be ideal. That's my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And certainly there are people out there with like 10, 12,000 foot buildings.
I
And
know.
there's people out working out of 600, 700 square feet. I know people in Manhattan that have a chair and a front desk effectively. So it's different. Depends on where you are.
Exactly.
You're outside of Baltimore. I'm guessing suburb area. I'm in the suburbs of Memphis. And so space is not like astronomically expensive. And so I think it becomes more about the opportunity cost than the true overhead of it.
Right.
Okay. Couple more questions, and then I'm going to do our TDO top 5. We're going to wrap up, I think, right at around an hour. So thank you for doing this. This is blown by.
Okay.
Jen Strickland asked this question. What's your number one marketing tip, internal and external, for your practice? So let's start with internal.
Okay. So for me, internal has 100% been moms. And I don't think that enough people pay attention to moms. I mean, I think a lot of focus is on the kids, which is great. I mean, that's what we're treating the kids, but my focus is on the moms. And the moment they come in, that's, you know, the way that I've designed the offices is to wow them and to make them feel fancy. And that's how the moms feel. And once they feel that, then they're comfortable. And then I'm in with a consult, and then I'm connecting with the moms. Our promo items are geared towards moms. And so when moms are in the back, we always invite moms back, you know, into the clinic area. And it's, you know, I make an effort to compliment the moms, you know, constantly engage with them. And they honestly become your best friends. And so I can't even tell you how many hugs I give per day to moms that are there. I mean, because it's like we've just all, you know, they're so used to being around, and they share their life stories with me as I'm working on their kids. But I think, you know, great internal marketing is to really focus on the moms. And I feel like as a female, that is a unique thing that we have, that we can connect, you know, with them. And I thought at first, I thought it was going to be a disadvantage to be a female. I'm like, I'm not an attractive guy, like, you know, but it's like, it's actually.
Well, neither am I. So, I mean, I struggle with that daily, but yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. You know, it's like, oh, the moms aren't going to like flirt with me or whatever, you know, but it's not, it's about more than that, you know, it's about friendship. And so that honestly has been super great for internal marketing. External marketing, you know, I mean, just something as basic as like, well, I mean, not basic, I mean, your brand, I mean, you have to consider what your brand is going to be and what your image you want to carry through. I had really good advice from the very beginning about not choosing to do a tooth for a logo. And I think so many people do tooth logos, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine.
Guilty.
But but it's like,
no, you're so right.
Yeah. And it's just like, because that's going to be, you know, there's so many different variations of tooth. And so if you can create like an image that is just unique. And I have here, I brought like I know it's backwards, but
nice.
There's my business card. But it's just like, I knew I wanted to have an image that was recognizable. But like just even business cards, like I on a weekly basis, but it's nice and thick and it's like velvety. But on a weekly basis, I have patients that come to me just based on my business cards. They're like, we were handed these business cards and we picked you because of this. So it's like little things that you just have to, you know, take into consideration, but they end up being big things because you're getting patients. So, so external stuff. Oh, and the other thing is too, you know, supporting teams. Like we have, we do a lot of like external marketing with like sponsorships of like elite soccer teams. I mean, the amount of kids that you can touch, but with having like an elite soccer team that you're sponsoring is unbelievable. So, and don't be afraid to spend money there. I mean, spend the money. It's totally worth it. I mean, my name is all over, like over 2,500 kids' shirts, you know, and it's like, it's great.
It's a no-brainer.
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah. We do a little flag football league, and we have them come in and do mouth guard fittings, and it's really easy, but it's a good excuse to kind of, so the point of good marketing, I think, is that if it can be cause related, and so the cause is to support sports teams, that's a good thing. If you can do like a mouth guard to protect their teeth, that's something that you should, you know, innately be interested in doing as a dentist, as an orthodontist. But when it benefits you, it's like the perfect circle of it all. So I think when you can find those where they line up, I think that's always the best kind of marketing. And it's like a no-brainer. It's like, why wouldn't I spend this amount of money to be on this shirt and support this team?
Right, exactly.
And I see myself in these kids, because I was once a kid. I never went to the orthodontist as a kid. And if I had known that an orthodontist, had sponsored my team, I would have definitely. Actually in Jonesboro, Arkansas, my baseball team was Catfish Galley one year, and so I went and ate their catfish. It was great.
Hey,
it wasn't quite
works.
Chico's bail bonds, but hey, whatever works. All right, so I've got one big question. This is the question I really wanted to ask, and I want to ask it in a way. I don't want this to come across the wrong way for me, but it's honestly. This year, I think probably more than any year has been the year of the woman. I think like Time Magazine, I don't know if they've named it yet, but I would be shocked if this were not sort of like the year of the woman. There's been the Me Too movement. There's been a lot of, I mean, even inside the orthodontic industry, there's been Courtney's meeting, Women Orthodontics meeting. And there's just been a lot of energy around that. Certainly as a man, it's always one of these things of like, ooh, what did I do wrong? And I don't even know if it's so much that, it's just so much more about, I'm not a woman, so I can't understand what that would be like. But obviously, I'm fully aware that the history of this industry has not always been positive towards women. And I guess the question, and I think to any man that's out there, if this like really ruffles your feathers to hear these sorts of things, my best advice is always to listen first. If it's something that you're not an expert on, always sit and listen before you speak. And so I think along those lines, what are 2 or 3 things that you wished male orthodontists understood about women and about female orthodontists better?
I think
no pressure. Yeah.
I think, we are a force to be reckoned with. And I think with more women entering into the field, there is a unique advantage that we have. And I don't consider anything as a disadvantage in being a woman. I mean, it is extra work, to have like work-life balance, but I mean, anybody does have that. But, I think that it is important for guys to be aware that we're here and we're going to stay and we want to be active. There's going to be periods of time where, like for me personally, I mean, I cannot travel to all these meetings right now. It's not feasible because I'm trying to take care of my family, but I want to be active and I want to have an active role in helping our profession and growing our profession. But I need to take a few years to just focus on my family and not do that and focus on my practice, So, I mean, I think that's one of the things, where I heard somebody make a comment about, oh, well, there was this meeting and we invited all these women to come speak, but none of them wanted to come. And it's like, I guarantee you, it's not that they didn't want to come. It's because we have other things going on in our lives right now that we just can't make that commitment, to do speaking engagement because it's a lot of preparation and we can't take that away from we don't want to take that away from our family. So,
sure.
So, I mean, it's not that we don't want to be involved. We do want to be involved, but it just is going to take a little bit longer, like, especially for myself to get to the point where I can be there. But, I mean, as far as just in general with like women in orthodontics, we're a very supportive group of one another and, we all want to be very active. And I think it's just, we're going to be here to stay. And I think there's an advantage. There's definitely some advantages that we have, that again, the connections with the moms and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what,
I think that's great. It's a bigger question than we probably have time to answer in many ways, but I think you got at the core of what I'm getting at. I think it's funny that you say, going into practice, sort of feel like it'd be easier as a man or something like that. Obviously there are privileges of being male, but as an orthodontist, like I'm jealous of the ability to have that relationship with a mom that's different than what I can have. And also with like young kids, most of whom are female in our practices. So I think it's an enormous advantage. And I think it's a credit to you that you are able to do even something like this tonight. Like you were telling me as we're prepping for it, it's like, well, I gotta put the kids down to bed and then I'll do the thing. If it's a man that I'm working with, it's just assumed that the wife is just doing that. And so for me, when I go on these weekend trips, like I was at the Invisalign Summit this past weekend, my wife's 8.5 months pregnant. She has 3 kids that she's watching the whole time. And so I feel guilt about that for sure, but not the same as if you were gone for 3 days and your husband was texting you like, they're killing me,
it's totally,
it's
different.
Just a different thing.
It's just different.
I think it's an important perspective for us to understand too, is that it's easy if I'm like putting together a meeting, I'm putting together an interview show and it's like, well, I've asked some women and, they didn't want to do it or they weren't interested. But there's
Right.
oftentimes more behind that. And
Right,
so
exactly.
there's a privilege to being a man and to be
Yeah.
able to focus on your own career,
Right.
maybe at the expense of your family, where that's maybe not an option for a female. I don't know.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I agree.
well, thank you for answering that very difficult question.
I'm sorry, that's
And
hard.
no, it's great. It's not an easy one, but I want to have that conversation and keep that conversation going. All right, so this is our TDO top 5. We're over an hour, and I apologize to
Okay.
everyone out there that needs to get some sleep so you can get to work tomorrow and see your
Yeah.
140 patients, just like Amanda. But I'm going to ask these questions every week so that we'll kind of see some repetition here. Quick answers to these, please. But
Okay.
first question is, if you weren't an orthodontist, what would you be?
Interior designer, practice designer, fashion, something.
Yeah, you and me
I would
both.
like that. Okay.
You and me both.
All right, sounds good.
Just kidding. No, that would be great. I think you'd be
Yeah.
awesome at that.
Yeah.
In 2 to 3 words, what is your favorite thing about being an orthodontist?
I think it provides a platform to influence people of all ages, young and old, and colleagues.
Great. Great answer. Yeah, that's a big thing for me too.
Yeah.
What's one thing you wish you had known sooner as a resident?
I think one thing that I was thinking about was contracts. Just, it's like, I don't think people pay enough attention to contracts. Like when they're coming out of residency, it's like, oh, I'm just going to sign this contract because I need a job. It's a lot of the times, I mean, you would hope that they wouldn't just be so one-sided. A contract is meant to protect both parties. And so you really just need to invest in an attorney, legal counsel to help you because you can get pretty banged up. So that's one thing that I kind of wish I knew earlier would be about contracts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Good paper makes good friends. So
Yeah.
got to do that. And that is the thing I've heard so much bad advice on. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's no big deal.
Yeah,
You
no
gotta
big
do it.
deal.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Restrictive covenant.
And as a
It's not
resident-
enforceable. It's like, no, it
Yeah.
is.
Oh, it's not enforceable. That's a classic one. Oh, there's no such
Right,
thing as an
kid.
enforceable non-compete. Well,
Right.
Of course there is. If you want to go to court and fight it, if you want to hire a
Right.
lawyer.
Right.
And I would say too that lawyers' fees, you might be talking
Yeah.
$600 to $1,500 from
Yeah.
lawyer fees. That is nothing compared to what you would deal
Right.
with if you get screwed over in a contract. So
Yeah, for sure.
take out a loan,
Yeah.
ask your grandma for
Yeah. 100% worth
an
it.
advance on some money or something. Do whatever you got to do, or marry
Yeah.
a lawyer.
Or
Either way.
marry a lawyer. That
all
works too.
Fourth question: who is your biggest influence and why?
Definitely my husband, because we work together, we raise our kids together, we live together, and we have the same goals. And so, I mean, that for sure, he's 100% biggest influence in my life by
Awesome.
Great.
Great.
No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, because he has to. I mean, he's just around. That's kind of what Cole's answer was last week.
Yeah.
He's like, well, Dacia's just around. I mean, it's just,
No,
just the way it
we
is.
work
I mean,
really well together, so I'm super excited
Yeah,
for that.
exactly.
Yeah, 'cause she's
All right.
around.
So, yeah, exactly. You just happen to be there. So, all right. Last question. What do you want to be remembered by? If you could pick something, what do you want to be remembered by?
I think what I would really like to be remembered by is just inspiring and helping others, whether it be, colleague female orthodontist. I've given so many friends, advice on, buying practices and trying to give them that encouragement to take the leap. So just, influencing people in a positive way. That's really what I want to be remembered by. Helping people out.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that you will be. And I have to say,
Yeah.
Amanda, I couldn't have asked for a better first remote guest. You did
Well,
awesome.
thank you.
Again, you prepped it so well. Your answers were incredible. You did an awesome job. I'm going to give you a little round of applause here.
Oh, thank you.
So to everyone out there, thank Amanda. And really, it's a lot of work that goes into this. And as far as I can tell, nothing crashed. And so
No,
I
think we're good. We didn't break the
save
internet.
it. Yeah, I think we did not break the internet. I don't know if it's
we
we
should
had
have
like
broken
60
the internet.
people in at once.
No, that
we
was
should have
good.
broken the internet. For
I
sure.
know.
Yeah,
I
that was
think we
great.
did.
So thank you so much for tuning in. I have no
Yeah.
idea what is to come with this show. I have a set now in my drum room that's not
Yes,
going
looks
anywhere.
awesome.
I don't think. Thank you. But we'll do this again. Now, I will be honest. December for me is super busy. I have a baby coming sometime around the 18th and holidays, and I was talking to someone about being on the show, and apparently Hanukkah starts next week. So we may take December off. I have no idea, but we will be back to do this show. And I will prepare more in advance than I did this time. I was literally like a minute before printing off my script. It was
I'm
kind of
super
funny.
impressed.
My wife,
You did an amazing job.
well, this is well, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun. So I guess that's all. So from all of us here at the Digital Orthodontist Live, Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
All right,
Thank you, everybody.
you. All
Bye-bye.
right, bye.
Thanks, Amanda.